the Executive Director of MICCI, the Malaysian International Chamber of Commerce and Industry, one of the longest established chamber in Malaysia. And we have been championing businesses since 1837, more than 180 years old. Are we tired? No, we continue to keep our members up to date. As part of our services, we continue to bring knowledge to our members. The pandemic challenges has been a challenge to the Malaysian businesses, and the Malaysian Treasury is also challenged. As part of their reforming of the tax system, they want to address tax leakages, to reduce the existing tax gaps, and to explore, this is very important, explore new sources of revenue to increase tax collection. So this is the right time for us to reiterate, this is the second of a series of this webinar on the tax audit on employers. But before we start, let's have some housekeeping rules. Those that are on Facebook, you can ask your questions through the comment section. And those are on Zoom, you can put it down in the chat. Okay. All right. Without further ado, today's topic is key highlights of the employer tax audit. Yeah. And what do you get out of that? Some key highlights would be, do you know your responsibility as an employer as per the audit framework? Are you ready to respond to the Inland Revenue Board audit? What happens if you do not comply with the employer's tax obligation under Section 83 of the Malaysian Income Tax Act? Well, in this live Zoom webinar, we have again Global Mobile Mobility Services Executive Director for Crow, Puan Shalina Jaffa. Okay, Puan, are you ready? I'll pass it over to you.
Yes, John, thank you. Let me share the screen. All right. Okay, can you see my full screen? Yeah. All right. Okay, if there is any problem with the screen, just let me know with the slides. Yeah, I hope you can see my full slides. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending time with me at this point for 45 minutes to listen to topics of the tax audit, or we call as the key highlights of the Employer Audit Framework. So maybe this is a lunchtime for some, and I promise it won't take long for this sharing session. And for the Muslim, I wish to wish selamat menjalani ibadah puasa. Yeah, okay. As mentioned by Sean, this is our collaboration with MICCI. And today I will speak about these audit topics, MRIB's audit topic. And there is the contents, all right? So we have two topics for today's briefing. Firstly, the tax audit framework. And I would like to highlight what are those key issues pertaining to the Employees Audit Framework issued by the Malaysian Inland Revenue Board, or Irbm. All right. The second topic that what I would like to share today is about the tax awareness for employers under sections 83.2, 83.3, and 83.4 of the Malaysian Income Tax Act 1967. And of course, we will end our session with a question and answer session. So I please take this opportunity during the 1.5 hour session for you to ask as many as questions. At least you understand what are those topics that we discussed today. All right. So now we start on the first slide of the key highlights of the Employer Audit Framework. Okay. So are you aware that the Irbm, Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, they are already issued a release on 1st October 2021 of the Employers Audit Framework, by their audit divisions. Okay, this framework actually address to all employers. So the framework is only available in Bahasa, and actually you can go to their link in the Arabis website, and you can click under the topic of legislations, Irbm Tax Audit Framework. Okay, So what are the purpose? Yeah, in general, this framework aims for number one, yeah, to help the audit officers to perform their duties more efficiently, okay, and also effectively. And the next one, to help all the employers to fulfill their obligations, their responsibilities under the tax law, specifically governed under the section 83 or and also section 107. When we're talking about the section 107, what is it mean? Section 107 refers to the compliance with the monthly tax deduction, or in bahasa potongan cukai berjadual, PCB. And also I will also share with you how actually the IRBM choose cases for the tax audit. Yeah, so basically this is the cases for the tax audit. Actually, they are selected through the computerized system based on the risk analysis criteria. Yeah. So, and also, it also mentioned in the IRB states framework that the selection of audit cases is not confined to the selection by the computerized system only, as cases can only be selected based on information received from various concerned. Yeah, they can also get information from the third parties. We may not know, but somehow they have all these information sources from the third parties. And in addition to that, these audit cases, they are selected based on the following manner. Number one, based on the risk analysis. If they found that this case will create a risk, so they may want to audit the employers. Second one, information received from the third party. Yeah, the employer may not know, but somehow there is a third party that it is disclosed to the RBM. We're not sure whether we are the HR person or even the staff can be considered as a third party. And what else? Selection based on the specific industries. Probably for the manufacturing companies, oil and gas industries, where involve many employees, many foreign workers. Yeah. So whether this employer actually fulfill their obligations, yeah, to file the income tax return for their employees, especially for foreign workers. So they may not know how to file the income tax return. So this is where they will select based on the specific industries. What else? Selection based on the specific issues. Yeah, probably that the employer may not comply, yeah, with the monthly tax deduction for a group of employees. So this we can recall as a specific issues. Why they didn't comply? Are they overlooked? Are they don't understand how to compute the MTD or PCB for all these employees? And the last one, the IRBM also will select audit based on the location. So in addition to that, in this tax audit framework, it is also mentioned that these employer audits that will be carried out by the IRBM is why? Because they just want to make sure that all these audit carried out or conducted that will be conducted by the IRBM will be carried out freely, transparently, and equitably, and also will make sure that the employers fulfill their obligations under the section 83. Okay. Now we move on to the next one. What are the key highlights of the employer audit framework? Okay, so employer audit activities, yeah, actually they are conducted in a comprehensive covering up to 2 years of current remuneration. Okay, but sometimes IRBM says that this case is not straightforward. All right, and this case may involve further analysis. And that's why sometimes IRBM said that I may not be able to audit this case only up to 2 years of remuneration. Yeah, remuneration is a employment income. Yeah. So because why? Because IRBM said that I found out that your company has made a few offenses that give a right to the IRBM to extend the period coverage Maybe the IRBM will say that, okay, I don't want to see for the 2020. I'm not only going to review on the 2020 or 2019, but please give me all the information for the last 5 years. They can do. But what type of offenses that IRBM will extend the period of coverage? It is stated in the Employers Audit Framework. Number 1, failure to remit MTD or PCB. Yeah. So sometimes we may not aware that by failure to meet MTD for 1 month may also cause an offense to the employer and will also cause the IRBM to audit your company. They wanted to know why. All right. Secondly, a shortfall in the MTD deductions where they call as underpayment. Probably this, what we call this, take for example your employee take for example as for your employee, yeah, who probably is already single, let's say assuming that your staff is married. All right, so in the first month, second month, third month, you deduct MTD based on the category married, assuming that the spouse not working. All right, somehow mid of the year, there is an update of the personal particulars. Your staff could be have a divorce, right? So when there is a divorce, it could be go back to the single, but the staff may not update the HR. So when the HR prepare the PCB or MTD, they still assume that this staff is married, but somehow this staff already go back to a single. So of course, the PCB deduction will be underpayment. So it is very important for the employer to make sure that all your staff will update their status, their personal particular status, marital status. Not only that, any other information related to the staff, or also maybe not only that, personal particulars, the most important, underpayment of DPCB in respect of income, remuneration, that HR may not aware that probably this allowance or this reimbursement of personal expenses is subject to the PCB or MTD. So it could be also underpayment of MTD. And the third one, repeated offenses. When the employer keep doing wrong calculation, keep doing wrong, what we call this, failure to remit MTD on time. So when there is the repeated offenses, it will attract IRBM to audit you. So careful with that. And the last one, when there is a complaint lodged, who will complain? It could be anyone. It could be third party who will lodge a complaint about this HR, never want to give an EA form, never want to bother to report EA form correctly. Why there is an error in my EA form? The staff make a complaint, and the worst scenario, the staff go to the IRBM and lodge a complaint that my employer never prepare my form EA correctly. So it will attract IRB to us and start audit the employer. Okay. Okay, now we move on. What else? So it is also mentioned in the Employers Audit Framework, yeah, that there are 2 types of audit. You must know this, yeah, 2 types of audit. One they call desk audit under Section 83 of the Malaysian Income Tax Act. The other one they call field audits, which is governed under Section 107 of the Malaysian Income Tax Act. When the IRBM conduct desk audits, they will focus on the Section 83. Section 83 related to the employer's obligations. As an employer, you must know what is your responsibilities, yeah? What is your tax obligations? I will share with you later what are those tax obligations under the Section 83. So under the Section 83, when the IRBMs do an audit, actually the purpose of doing it, why they want to audit you on the Section 83? Because they want to make sure that all the employers outside there complies with their tax obligations set out under Section 83. Yeah, there are about 6 sections. There are about 6 what we call this Section 83 actually stated in the Malaysian Income Tax Act where the employer must comply. All right, so that was is the purpose. What about under field audits under Section 107? Field audits under Section 107 refers to doing anything that the employer not comply relating to the potongan cukai berjadual or the MTD remittances. Yeah, the MTD could be deducted by the employer, but they never remit to the IRBM. It happens. Yeah, and also sometimes the employer may calculate wrongly, may calculate, by right, the MTD for this employee A should be 1,000, but every month they deduct at 500 ringgit. So this is also an offense. So what is the purpose to audit this? Just to make sure that the employer deduct the correct MTD, so there is no problem for the employee when they file their income tax return. End up sometimes they have to pay a significant amount of tax payable just because that the employer never deduct the PCB correctly. That is the purpose why the IRBM wanted to help the employer to understand, and also at the same time to protect the employers and also employee, and also to certain extent benefited the employee as well. Okay, so the next one, what is the process under the desk audit under Section 83? In the process for the employees tax obligations audit, the IRBM will do an inspection, and also they will verify all payroll records. Sometimes you remember that some of the employer, not all the expenses captured in the payroll records, where we call as a off payroll records. So that's why sometimes RBM also wanted to know why all these expenses is off payroll records, and whether all these expenses related to the personals, not related to the business. Okay, and what they do, they will compare with the Form E. All right, and also they will compare with the Form CPAD. What is Form CPAD? Form CPAD is the Form EA. And also they will compare with the what we call this data pricing. Okay, what is the meaning of the data pricing? If you look at the IRBM's website, data pricing meant is an online system developed by the IRBM for employers to upload all the employees' information in advance, or we call as the pre-fill information of the employer's income in advance in the data pricing. So when the IRBM do an audit with the payroll records, they would tell the employer, can you show me your Form E? Can you give me your Form EA? And if you are actually what we call this provide information through data e-pricing, can I also look at all this data pricing? And assuming that this Form EA, for example, or the payroll, let's say we take one employee, the payroll records for the year, the total of the remuneration is 300,000. But when look at the Form E, when look at the Form EA, is only reported at 250,000. So where the 50 ringgit goes, it also cause the RBM to query. Although it's a small number, but sometimes it may also end up goes to the more offenses just because of the 50 ringgit just now. All right. So when the IRBM do and field audits about the MTD deductions, MTD audits, they will also see all the payroll records every month that you deduct PCB or MTD to your staff against or other information related to employment. For example, that I mentioned all the payroll off record just now. When we talking about the off payroll record, so means that if let's say that every month the payroll record will, or the payroll system software only capture the basic income of this employee, but somehow the employee also eligible to claim like kind of car maintenance allowance, yeah, or reimbursement, yeah. They pay first the car maintenance, and then after that only claim back from the company, and sometimes the company may not capture this in the payroll, and the company said that because the reason why, because the employee used the car for the purpose of work. But the IRBM will further ask, how sure are you that the staff using that car, his own car, for the purpose 100% of work during the 8 hours? Yeah, because this car actually is belong to the employee, and the employee could be using it for personal as well. And this employee claimed the maintenance, the road tax, and road tax is for a year. It's not like for a year that you use the car 100% for the purpose of carrying out duties. Then Because of that, the employer never bothered to deduct MTD on the car maintenance reimbursement. So this is also may trigger IRB to say you are doing wrong. You are not actually comply with the PCB deduction. Okay, where now the IRB can conduct the audit? Under the section 83 of the desk audit, they can go, the employer will be required to go to the IRBM's office. All right. Okay. They will send you a letter sometimes, and then they say that in the letter that please bring all the document and go to the IRB's office. They will tell you where to go, and also they sometimes they of course they will give you a timeline. Yeah, maybe 14 working days. Yeah, maybe if let's say that you couldn't take the 14 working days or 21 days sometimes, so you just call the IRBM, tell the IRBM, I need a further extension of time. I couldn't get all this information. I don't know where my staff keep it, and my staff is on long leave. Can I get 1 month extension of time? They can. IRBM is not so strict, you know. They are more friendly if you wish, you know, to provide them with the information and tell the IRBM, say the RBA officer to say that, okay, I need more time to provide with the information. They are okay. Right. So what about the field audits on the premise? This one can be done in your office or IRBM office or any other location as agreed by both parties. All right. So if let's say they conduct this audit in the employee's office, in your office, so make sure you have a proper, what we call this, a proper place for the RBM officer to sit down and do their work. Okay, that is one of the criteria also stated in the audit framework to make sure that you conduct it, give cooperations to the IRBM. Okay, after we know the types of audits, so we go to the rights and responsibility of you as an employer. What are they? Yeah, this is also stated, listed in the tax audit framework. All right. Okay. The first one is that the employer must be cooperative, polite, yeah, honest in providing the information, and show your integrity, yeah, to the audit officer. Yeah, be nice to them lah. Okay. Okay. The secondly, they also mentioned that the employer should provide information related to the business, office system, accountings, and information related to all the employees' remunerations. Okay, so you have to have on hand all this information. So as and when the officer asks, just give it to them. Okay, the next one. Your responsibility also is to allow the audit officers to inspect and even make a photocopy. Yeah. So if let's say that you get the IRBM office to come to your office, just make sure lah the table or whatever place nearer to the photocopy machine, so easy for the IRB officer to make a copies. Yeah. And then please make sure that you already put all the documents, books of accounts, whether in physical or if let's say in via electronic. So take a computer of you, and then after that just go through together with the officer, so easy for the officer to understand what are those information that you keep via online. Okay. And the next one, what is your responsibility of the employers when the IRBM conduct an audit? Assist them in preparing and assessing physically and also electronically stock records, document, and books of accounts. But what happens if let's say during that time the IRBM also ask, I want this, but you couldn't find in your store, you couldn't find in your what we call this, in your soft copy. Tell IRB, can I get it at the time for you? And maybe it is in my old store and so on. Always, tell the reason to IRB. So IRB should be okay. It's a long, but sometimes IRBM say, okay, if you don't have, this is already information is already enough for me to assess. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, sometimes IRBM also can be fair to the employers. And what else? The last one, allow the audit officers to use any copiers, telephones, or the communication devices, electrical equipment, office space, and so on. Yeah, as someone that can facilitate their audit. So actually, you have to help them. All right. Okay. What else your responsibility other than the 5 points that I mentioned just now? You must also cooperate to answer all questions. Yeah. So if let's say that you don't understand the IRBM's question, so clarify with the officer. Sometimes the officer may use terms based on the law terms, tax law terms, but you don't understand. But do you ask officer, can you tell me in the layman term so easy for me to understand? So they can, all right, they can give an example. So always clarify with them. Yeah. So please remember this. The employer is deemed to have committed an offense under the provisions of the MITA if they fail to cooperate in providing the required information. Okay, so remember that if you don't cooperate in giving the answers, it will also cause an offense to the employer. All right, so what else we have to know about your rights and responsibility? Okay, in the IRBM Tax Framework, it's actually mentioned about these employers are prohibited. You are not allowed to give any form of gift to the audit officer and deal with the audit officer during the period of the audit. Never do. Okay? Because you want to make sure that all your reports are correct. So you say to the audit officer, after this, I have a special gift for you. Yeah, just look at whatever information I have here because I don't have any other information. It's just straightforward, facilitate that, finalize that. Don't ever do that. All right, it's an offense. All right. Make any form of payment to the audit officer? Yes, don't do that. This is a serious offense. Yeah, don't simply wanted to give him cash and so on. This is an offense. Yeah, and what else? Prevent audit officers for carrying out official duties. This is also something that you must also understand. Yeah, you cannot also you prevent the audit officers from carrying out their duties when they want to audit your records. Okay. So it is also mentioned in the IRB Step Audit Framework that to prevent or refuse to allow the audit officer to enter any premises, building and place pursuant to the Section 80 of the MITA is wrong. You cannot simply stop the IRB officer when they already come in front of the door. I don't have time for you, you go back. No, you cannot simply chase away them. You cannot. Yeah. You prevent them to allow the audit officer to enter your premises. Prevent audit officers from performing official functions and duty, also wrong. Yeah. And refuse to produce any work, any other records. You will tell the RBM, unless you say you don't have lah. But if let's say you only wanted to, to give the RBM officer only a few documents, and the other documents you just keep somewhere else because you keep it secretly confidential. You will tell RBM, this is confidential, this is all information about my directors. Cannot. You must give all the information as requested, asked by the officer. Okay, and fails to provide reasonable assistance to the audit officer. You simply say all this, but you never say the valid reason why you're not doing that, why you don't want to give them all this information, and refuse to answer any relevant question. All right. Okay. Such this, if all these things actually happen to you, which you not cooperate with them, which what we call this, you do an offense under all this point, it can be trigger what we call it a penalize on the employer under the section 116 of the MITA. Yeah, because it's really mentioned all this you cannot prevent them from carry out their duties. All right, after we listen about the tax audit framework in brief, let us go further. What are your responsibilities so you don't get caught with the IRBM office? I believe that many participants here who maybe some of them are HR or finance, from finance, or even you are owner of the business. All right, you may understand your obligations. You must understand your tax obligations. There are 8 tax obligations that the employer must aware of. Firstly, is about the Form E. All right. Who doesn't know? Okay, I believe that everyone knows what is the Form E. Okay, so the Form E is about the employers to report all the employees' income and about all the employees' employment with the company. When we're talking about the Form E, it is very also important for the employee to understand. Form E is for those employers must report as an, if let's say you have an intern, for example, you have a, okay, of course you have a staff. That one you must report in the Form E. And if let's say you have a part-timers, you have an intern, because they work in your company, they work in your office. All this group of employees or even intern or even part-timers, you must report in the Form E. It doesn't matter whether all these employees will be chargeable to tax or not. You must report all, even they only earn 1,500 per month, which not even reach the income threshold of 100 or 34,400 after EPF, for a calendar year. All you must report in the Form E, except for those individual that the company contracted under the contract for services, independent consultant, that one different. But for those who are work with your company in the office, you are the one who pay them, you must report in the Form E. Aligned with that, you must also issue Form EA. All right, Form EA is also subjective because some of the company may say, hey, I have a group of interns. They only earn allowances about 800 or 1,000. Do you expect me to issue Form EA or not? As long as you know that all this group of employees or staff, which is not, reach the income threshold, of the chargeable income threshold, no need for you to issue any Form EA for them. But if you're not sure whether they will be chargeable to tax or not, might as well you issue just Form EA for them. Just in case that you think that they are not chargeable to tax, but IRB said when they do audit, the IRB think that is chargeable to tax. So also problems. So if you're not sure, you issue Form EA. But if you're sure that they are not chargeable to tax, the income threshold is not more than 34,400 for a single, assuming that they earn, I think, around 3,000 plus, after EPF, so that then no need for you to issue the Form EA. All right, the Form CP22 is also very important for you to issue Form CP22. For what is the Form CP22? When there is a new joiner of your employee for your company, when there is a new employee, inform IRBM. In the past, IRBM said can just daftar their SG number through e-daftar in their via online platform. But now IRBM said you must also inform B by way submit the Form CP22 hard copy. They make it strict. All right. This one effective 2021. Okay. So if you have a new employee, inform IRBM, fill up the Form CP22. Where to find the Form CP22? You can actually print out from the IRB's website, but you have your own payroll software, right? So the payroll software should have this form. All right. Form CP21, Form CP22A, and also Form CP22B. What are they? Form CP21 is for those employees who already cease employment and is going to leave Malaysia more than 3 months. Especially this is for foreigners, foreign workers, expatriate employees. They want to go back to their home country. Form CP22A is for the private sectors. If let's say you have a local employee who is going to resign, technically you must fill up Form CP22A. But there is a concession from the IRBN to say that no need for you to fill up the Form CP22A if you comply with the PCV every month for this employee, and also this employee actually is going to work with another company and it's not going to retire with any employment. So actually it's a very important for you to ask your staff when they are put in their resignation. Are you go somewhere? Or maybe sometimes they don't want to tell you. But IRBM say in the law to say, if you know that this employee is not going to resign with any other employment other than your employment and is going to work with another company or is going to work elsewhere, so you are allowed not to fill up the Form CP22A. So this is one of the query also that RIB has listed in one of the requirements. CP22B may not relevant, but for those who are government sectors, if you are cease employment, so you will fill up under Form CP22B. Withhold last round salary, what is this? Okay, when the employee, I think this one HR must know, yeah. When the when your staff put in their resignations, and assuming that this staff you need to fill up form CP22A or CP21 for this staff, make sure that you withhold their last salary, last month salary, the month that he's going to resign. Let's say he's going to resign on the starting from what we call this because he has a 1 month notice, right? Okay, let's say this employee date of last day is on the 30th June. So the salary for June, the employer must withhold and obtain tax clearance letter from the Irbm, then only can release that amount withhold to the employee after remit the outstanding tax to the Irbm. This is also where many staff not happy. That's why I said just now, when you're talking about the local employees, I don't think so that many employees outside there will stop their last round salary, yeah, and even not file CP22A to the Irbm. As long as you fulfill the condition that I mentioned just now, that every month you deduct MTD or PCB for this staff, and this staff actually is going to work elsewhere, even not necessary for you to know where, but the employee said, yes, I'm going to work elsewhere, it's okay already. But please do some documentations lah. Huh? That's why it's very important that if the employer can do a like kind of interview departure, in the interview departure, you just put there, are you going to work elsewhere or are you going to work with another company? Just ask the staff to put yes or no. If the staff said, why you want to know this? Because I want to make sure that I comply with the Irbm under the section 83.3, no need for I to withhold your last round salary. When you say, if otherwise I have to withhold your last draft salary. If you say that you want to withhold your last draft salary, for sure they will tell you, say, okay, I will tick yes, I'm going to work as well. Yeah. Okay, what else? Dim employer. Okay, dim employer is a bit technical. This is usually involve NSC's companies in the industries of oil and gas or constructions or manufacturing, where sometimes they require expertise from their parent company. Assuming that this parent company in the UK, and assuming that Malaysia has a project and the Malaysian company requires UK expertise to perform the services for this Malaysian project, yeah. Assuming that this Malaysian is a subsidiary company of that UK company, all right. So this UK employee usually will be hired directly by the UK company, and they just assign or second their UK employees to your company. And because this employee is a UK company, you have to comply with the immigration requirements. You have to sponsor their work permit. Although you are not do the payroll for this UK employee, you just sponsor their work permit. But who is going to comply all these tax obligation? Inform Irbm, issue the form EA, comply with the PCB deduction. The employer in Malaysia, the Malaysian subsidiary just now will be treated as a deemed employer. We have no choice. As a deemed employer, you have to follow all the employer's obligations. This is a bit complicated, but I don't want to explain further because this would depend on your scenario, case by case basis. Yeah, if you wanted to know more about these employers issues, you can contact me. All right. And the next one, what is the tax awareness for employers, is also to comply with the NTD. Make sure you comply. I believe that every employer participants today comply with the PCB deductions. There are no issues, right? And also must keep records. Don't think that keep records as simple as it is. It can be, Irbm can always penalize you for not keeping records. Yeah, so make sure that you keep the records. There is a special penalty on this one if you're not keep the records. Okay. I just want to highlight the latest updates about this income tax law on about the CP22, CP22A, CP22B, and CP21. I will make it simple for you to understand. Before 1st January 2021, Irbm law says that if you have a new employee, please inform me within 1 month. But now they change effective 1st January 2021. If you have a new employee, please inform me via Form CP22, fill up Form CP22 within 30 days. They make it simplified, 30 hari. Yeah, okay. So in the past they said 1 month. Now they make it as the 30 hari. So if let's say February only have 28 days, so actually you can submit by 2nd March. Yeah. Okay. Now the next one. CP22A, CP22B also did mention if there is a cessation of employment of your staff, inform me within 1 month. But now, effective 1st January 2021, they take it as 30 days. All right. And also the last one, if there is any employees that is going to leave Malaysia more than 3 months, subsequent to the cessation of employment, inform in the CP21 also within 30 days. Okay, they also updated ways of submission. You must submit this hard copy by hand, to the IRB's office. You cannot just call IRB, you cannot just email IRB. IRB wanted to see the hard copy, no choice. You have to do the submission. HR, please take note this. And also mode of submission of all other forms that I mentioned just now, also by hand at the employees MRB's branch. How do you know employees MRB's branch? There is a SG number, income tax number of the employee, right, in your records. So either you ask your staff, where is your IRB's branch? If they say they don't know, then ask your staff to call IRB, where is my office, IRB's office. All right. If let's say that you're staying in Setapak, so your IRBM's office could be Wangsa Maju. Okay. They look at the nearest branch, but please double check with the IRBM. Okay, after listen of the laws of the RIB, quickly we goes to the penalty and offenses. Yeah, because I have only 15 minutes now before we go to the Q&A. Consequences for non-compliance under the field audit. Remember what is the field audit just now that I mentioned? Field audit is where when the IRB wanted to audit the employer whether the employer comply or not with the PCB. Field audit is all about the PCB offense or MTD offenses. Desk audit is all about the employer's tax obligation just now under Section 83. All right. In the field audit, if they found that you are not comply with the PCB deduction, any offenses, you can be penalized not less than 200 ringgit and not more than 20,000 ringgit or to imprisonment for a term exceeding 6 months or both. Just remember this. They're talking about of an offense. Of an offense is per offense, yeah? Okay, assuming that you have 5 new employees and you did not inform IRBM about these new joiners, 5 employees. 5 employees is 5 offenses. Let's say IRB charged 200 ringgit. So 200 ringgit per staff for 5 staff, already 1,000. So that would be an offense. Okay. Desk audit, what happened if you are not comply with the IRBM Section 83? Also, they said you will be penalized, and they already actually listed down, yeah, what are those penalties rates under these offenses desk audit under Section 83. They call fails to comply with the paragraph 1201B, C, and E. So what are they? We quickly go. All right, under this desk audit, these are the breakdown. Okay, the breakdown, how much they will impose you. It is the same. It is the same penalty rates charged as per the field audit just now. Not less than 200 ringgit, but not more than 20,000, or to imprisonment not exceeding 6 months or both. But they segregate, they separate their offenses. Number 1, 1201B of the Malaysian Income Tax Act. If you fail to submit all the notifications via the prescribed form to the IRBM just now, like CP22, CP21, CP22A or CP22B. So then they will penalize you under these penalty rates. Okay. 1201C, if you fail to submit form CP20, okay, just now, sorry, 1201B is about form E and EA. If you fail to submit form E and if you fail to give your employees form EA, and if IRBM knows that you never bother to give your staff the form EA, so you will be in trouble. Form EA doesn't require the employer to submit to the IRBM, yeah? Only upon audit, if IRBM asks for the EA form, then you give to the IRB officer. All right. Subsection 1201C is about if you fail to submit all the forms that I mentioned just now. So there will be trigger a penalty as well. 1201E is about the failure to comply with directions under the subsection 83.5 and section 107 of the MITA. This is also if you are not comply with the monthly tax deduction according to the section 107 of the MITA and section 83.5. Okay, there will be an offense. Okay. In the case of repeated offences, banyak kali buat salah, repeated offences. Irbm did mention in the Irbm tax framework that they will take into account the total offences repeated in the determining the total compound to be imposed under Rule 17 of the MTD rules of Section 20 of the MITA. So repeated offences, how the IRB defines. Repeated offences can be if you, okay, first month underpayment of MTD, shortfall, yeah, terkurang bayar MTD. The second month, failure to deduct MTD, yeah, you forgot to deduct MTD or failure to deduct the MTD for one staff. Okay. And then the next one, the third month under deduction of the MTD. And then the fourth offences, you deduct, but you forgot to remit. That one is also considered as an offense. And the last one, late remittance. So if you do all these things, it's already considered as the repeated offences. Okay. So under the deduction or failure to deduct MTD for the purpose of determining, yeah, the compound amount, the first offense, yeah, remember, please take note this. The first offense is taken from the date of the audit findings previously issued by the IRBM to the employer. Audit found that, okay, let's say today audit found that you never deduct this on that particular month, yeah. So this one already started taken from the date of the audit findings into determining how much penalty you must pay. But remember just now, not less than 200 ringgit, not more than 20,000. Okay. So under remittance and or failure to MTD, prosecution also action will be also conducted. Okay. So what else the consequence for non-compliance? Penalty for incorrect return, incorrect information. This is different. Penalty for incorrect return, incorrect information. Let's say you prepare the form E. You prepare the form EA. You submit the form E to IRBM. You disseminate the form EA to your staff, but you have reported wrongly their employee's income. It can happen. Yeah. In fact, by right, the employer, let's say the employee's salary or income per year should be 200,000, but you reported only 150,000. The 50,000 is a shortfall. So the 50,000 call is a wrong reporting already. There will be another penalty rates will be imposed to the employer. What are the rates? The employee on conviction, IRBM will impose a fine not less than 1,000, but not more than 10,000. Slightly higher from that one. Okay, or much higher than the penalty you did not submit the form E just now. Even though you submit the form E online, but you submit the wrong form E, it can be trigger this offense, you know. Not less than 1,000, but not more than 10,000. Or even sometimes and special penalty of double 200,000 of the amount of tax undercharge. Remember just now that the 50 ringgit I say just now, so the 200% will be calculated on the 50 ringgit, on the 50,000 as the tax undercharge. No prosecution penalty equal to the amount of tax undercharge. It can also be the 100% of the tax undercharge. Remember just now about the keep records? Just now that one of the employer's obligation to keep records. It looks simple. You don't bother to keep records, but if the IRB officer found out, then you will be penalized for not less than 300 ringgit and not more than 10,000 also. And also imprisonment for term not exceeding 1 year. This one haven't happened like, but this one could be happen. some of those cases, yeah. But if let's say that you manage to keep the records and you have all this file, you have a valid reason to tell IRBM, and then of course the IRBM will then may consider or give a concession. Actually, there is a many cases actually involving the penalties, but because of the due to time constraint, I don't have time to share the story about this penalty. Yeah, if you think that there is no any imprisonment, actually they do. They do have cases for those that director that could have been caught into jail because not able to pay the penalty. They do, you know, but because due to time constraint, I couldn't share all these cases. Maybe if we can have another round, like sharing the penalty cases is also good, huh? Okay, how we can help you? After we listen a very brief about the tax audit framework and how the IRB can trigger the offenses and how actually you can be caught of not doing things, we can help you. All right. Crew can help you with the filing of the employee's return. Even for the many backdated years, you never bother to submit, we can help you. We can help you with the appeal. Don't worry. Yeah. So if let's say IRB already started conducting the audit, we can also provide IRB with any reason why happen. Why is it happen? That's why it's under the employee's tax audit. We can assess your documents and appeal for the tax audit and assessment and also penalty. We can also help out the employers. We can also help up you the setting up internal SOP. As for the HR, finance, payroll preparer, what they should do. They should work as a team. Let us do the SOP. You do what? You do this, you do that. So everybody will be aligned with the process. Yeah. Payroll due diligence, we can. If let's say that you are not sure that all your staff income will be subject to tax or not, we can assess for you. We can provide you with the tax documentation review. It's very cheap, not really what we call this, not to charge you on that at the higher side. No, we want to make sure that you can do it this as a guidelines, all right? Payroll administration, we do payroll. So if let's say that you think this is a time for you to outsource the payroll, okay, let us help you. And then early consultation, if you don't think so that you need all this assistance, but actually you just can consult us. No worry, you can call me. You can call me, and then you can email me, and then if you have any questions, so we will try our best to help you. Okay. All right, I have already, we already at the 1:30 sessions on the tax briefing on the tax audit framework. Now is the time for the Q&A sessions. Let me go through on the 4 questions first, as posted in the, what we call this, I already got these questions in advance. Question 1, yeah. Shall the employer submit the form CP22A immediately if the staff resign end of last year, but only discovered that she left country for an overseas job? Can submit to the MRB's employer unit? Okay, yes, the answer is yes, can. Okay, of course, sometimes that not many employers would be able to meet the deadlines of the 30 days. Yeah. If let's say that the employee, especially for the foreign workers, yeah, although the foreign workers, let's say the foreign workers date of cessation of employment contract ended by 31st January, for example. But somehow these foreign workers say that, or sometimes are suddenly missing, go missing. Yeah, you couldn't find him, or have to quit, have to resign. Yeah, by 15 January, within the 1 month of the 31st January, by right, he should you should go off already. So but actually accidentally they have to go off. Yeah, you don't know, maybe this is where that you couldn't inform IRBM, because let's say, because IRBM said you must inform IRBM within 30 days, right? But who knows, this foreign worker suddenly tomorrow wanted to resign. There is no any 30 days already. The only 1 day, 24 hours, not even sometimes 24 hours, is only 8 hours. So it's okay. As long as you can inform IRB the reason why, is fine with the IRBM. All right. But quickly submit to the IRB. All right. On the CP22A. The next question. Form CP22 for new employees. can we submit via email to the MRB as working? Because now we are working from home, many of us, right? But now I think many of us have started working in the office. Processor will not be able to print out and send to the MRB. How do we submit to the MRB? Yeah. Before 2021, the answer is yes. But after 1st January 2021, I'm afraid that we cannot I'm afraid that the IRBM wanted to see the hard copy. So you need to submit the hard copy of the form CP22 to the IRBM's office. Yeah, to the IRBM's office, the IRBM's branch of that particular employee. Yeah, but maybe you can call IRB, ask IRB of your reason, because can I submit now, later? I only can submit later via hard copy. Just make what we call this, an appointment with them. Yeah, just ask them what is the best way. But the law say by right you should submit the hard copy to the IRBM office. Question 3. Any grace period for the submission of the form CP22? No, there is no any grace period. It should be within 30 days. But if let's say just now I mentioned, if let's say you can't meet the 30 days, always provide the reasons. Hopefully the reasons are all valid. But if let's say the reasons are not valid, there will be a penalty lah on the 200 ringgit minimum, the 20,000 ringgit max. For voluntary disclosure, there are any special penalty amount offers by the IRB? Okay, what is a voluntary disclosure? Voluntary disclosure is like you menyerah diri. For example, that you know that you are doing the wrong thing, then you quickly volunteer of your offense to the IRBM and starting, do the right thing, amend the form CP22. For those who are not do the CP22, do the CP22, amend the form EA and all these things and submit to the IRBM before IRBM conduct the audit. Actually, you can do that. IRBM encourage you to do that. But whether if there is any special penalty, this is the one that they did not mention in the tax framework, unfortunately. Yeah. But you can ask the IRBM, can you give us a concession? Because I show the what we call this I show my my initiative to comply with your law. So please help me, give me some concession, the terms of the penalty rates or not. Yeah, you can do that. All right. All right. I think let me see if there is any more question on the chat questions, or should I pass over to Sean to read the question?
Yes, okay, thank you very much. Let me, quite interesting when you say about the preventing officers from actually coming to your premise, because it was something in the old days where you see the officers coming, you just shut the gate and then you run away.
Yes.
Nowadays, it's an offense, a jailable offense, right?
Yes, actually you cannot simply tell the officer go away, because okay, I have one last time as my experience. I see my experience. Actually, at that time, one of the office actually already closed. It's almost 6 o'clock or 6:30, and then at that time 3 or IRB's officer already come out from the lift and want to enter the office premise. But at that time, the receptionist always almost closed the door. You have to let the officer in.
Yes, yeah. That's where the next question would be, lah. Like, I mean, can they, do audit or raid like that in irregular hours, that kind of stuff? I mean, is there a proper, like you say, lah, 6 o'clock closing already, they don't come like that. Yeah.
Actually, this is a good question, Sean. Actually, okay, the proper way of doing it audit. Already the IRB by right, they should come up with a letter to say that I will come to your premise when and when, all right? Just make sure that all these documents are available. Many cases, they will send you a letter first. And then, but there is a circumstances, I think there is 1 year, 3 years back or 4 years back, which I as a tax agent also is a surprise to many of us, where the IRB officer, they just appear to my client's office. There is 1 year, I think, and that is where we are like kind of, oh, okay, we can't do anything, even there is no letter. But during that, I think there is a few occasions whereby the RBM not so strict lah, because they also somehow they appear in our office. They said, because I couldn't get all this information, they say, okay, I will come back late. I will come back other days. They also at the end of the day, they consider to give extra days for us, or they will come back other days with all the information and documents. There is a 1 or 2 years, John.
Yeah, okay. Interesting enough, like okay, if it's a member of the police, you know, they have an authority card gun. So if three fellas turn up at your doorstep, how do you know they're actually from IRB?
Oh, okay. Okay, this is on the implementation. Yeah, the implementation, I think, according to their implementation, I think they will come up with their ID of the IRBM officer. Yeah, because for today's session, I didn't cover on the what we call this, the implementations of the audit. If I'm not mistaken, that let me see. If I'm not mistaken, that the IRBM will show their ID, and also they will introduce and show their power cut lah. Of course, they must have this ID. If let's say you are suspicious whether they are RBM or not, or RB officer, I think you can always call the IRB. If you have a tax agent, you can always call tax agent. But many of us no tax agent. If I will not simply believe them they are RBM officer unless they give me their number, whatever number I want to call now. If let's say that we know the IRBM's number, could just call the IRBM's number or what to find out whether there is if this officer actually is a true officer, genuine of or IRBM officer. But they must introduce themselves and show their power card. They call as a ID power card, and this
authority card lah.
Authority card and authority card, and inform the purpose of coming and all these things. They must do that, Sean. Otherwise, I think there's a lot of scammers nowadays.
Yes. Good. Okay, some quick questions here. Yes, I've seen this before. Expatriate in Malaysia. Okay, like what you mentioned before lah. It is, let's say the expatriate is paid overseas. Yeah, but it's not paid locally, and you must declare. Right, I don't know whether it's declared under the expatriate, so to speak, under EA, or there's something called certificate of remuneration. The idea is if you declare in the EA, it doesn't balance with the books. You get what I mean? The books, there's no remuneration coming out from there.
Understand.
And then the problem is, the second problem is when you declare, as a local company director, which I will be liable, how much does head office pays him? I do not know. So it is very reliant on hearsay. So if I were to sign a declaration, that means this is to, you know, I'm declaring, but it may not be the right number, you know. You get what I mean or not?
Understand.
Okay, first question is, declare under EA or certificate of remuneration, then it doesn't reconcile to actual payment out of the bank books. Is that okay? And then the third part of it is the declaration, you know, do I get in trouble if suddenly I don't know out of the blue, or am I under obligation to prove?
Okay. All right. Okay. For this type of arrangement, assuming that these expatriate employees in this case is very common among the expatriate employees. Probably they have separate payment. One is from their home country and the other one is from host country. Host country usually host country is Malaysia lah, where the work they perform in that country. Home country is the country where they hired by the overseas company. Okay. Assuming assuming that this employee is a Japanese. Let's say this Mr. Takayasu-san receive 50,000 ringgit Malaysia in Japan lah, 50,000 ringgit Malaysia salary, but in Malaysia he received another 50,000 Malaysian ringgit, which only captured in the local payroll. The another 50 ringgit not captured in the local payroll because that one paid directly by the Japanese company, their parent company. Okay, in this respect, what I would suggest that the local company just report the 50,000 in the form EA because this is one that aligned with the payroll records. Okay, in another 50,000, this is the one where the employee or the expatriate employee must get a confirmation letter from the Japanese company home country, in the home country. So with this certificate of remuneration, by right they should pass over to the HR of local company to keep as a record in case there is an audit by the Irbm. Okay, so keep under record. So for the purpose of report the income of these two income from Japan and Malaysia is the responsibility of this Japanese employee to report in the form EBA, in their income tax return. For the local company, it's not wrong for them to not report the 100,000 because the only 50,000 is not captured in the in the income tax in their payroll. So just issue the form EA for the 50,000 and educate the employee, or maybe can discuss internally with the parent company to prepare the certificate of remuneration and give the HR a copy of that certificate remuneration for the purpose of the Irbm's audit. Yeah, for that employee, of course, they will receive the certificate remuneration for their parent company just now. So they have to, this employee will have to, this certificate of remuneration and also in the EA form with these two income, 100,000 report in the income tax return. Yeah. So about this one,
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. That is if you have. What if the Takahashi-san has got zero Malaysian payment, but the 50,000 all from Japan? Does the Malaysian company need to have an EA form because it's zero?
Okay. For this type of arrangement, because it's 100% paid by the home country, the Japanese company, right, Mr. Takayasu-san. So for me, I would just get a letter of confirmation from the HQ or from the parent company from the Japanese from the Japan company. No need for the HR to prepare any EA form because if let's say that if you prepare the EA form, it will not ties to the what we call this with your payroll records. Yeah. But this is the challenge part, Sean. Remember the eight responsibility of the employer that I mentioned just now. Must inform IRB, must prepare form E, must prepare form EA, must deduct PCB, right? Okay. Now the challenge is this salary 100,000 paid by the Japanese company, by the Japan company. How the Malaysian company would know? Sometimes it's a confidential for them. The salary. They couldn't do anything. Okay, they couldn't do anything, and this is where will trigger the issues of the deemed employer. All right, the deemed employer. So this is where sometimes a lot of the companies outside there, they may hire third party to help them. Because they said that okay lah, too bad lah, my parent company never wanted to disclose all the salary 100,000 received by this employee Japan. So how I want to prepare EA form, how I want to deduct PCB, how I want to comply as a deemed employer on this obligation. So some of the company outside there, they will hire tax agent to do act on behalf of the local company and also report all the income received from the overseas company directly to the Irbm office. This is happen when the parent company doesn't want to disclose all this information pertaining to this employee to the subsidiary company in Malaysia, to local company. They don't want to disclose. But some of the company, they make it's compulsory for that overseas company to disclose all the information so that the company can, report in the EA form, can report in the form E, can also deduct PCB. Either they pay first or they claim back from the overseas company, or the overseas company will, will do the costing, will remit the money every month to the local company to do the PCB and all this. It depends. How do you want to arrange internally between the company, subsidiary and parent company on the arrangement? From the IRB's point of view, to simplify matters, IRB always encourage the local company and the overseas company to work together in order to comply with the Section 83. Make sure that the overseas company disclose all the information to the local company and assign one the HR to work on this one. Put it in their payroll system, put it in the form EA, and deduct PCB every month. But if let's say there is a challenge that this overseas company don't want to do that, so that is where unfortunately probably the local company may need help from the third party agent to do it on behalf of them, as long as can protect the local company under the obligation as a deemed employer. Can also do that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
so,
the tax agent wouldn't be signing on behalf of the Malaysian company, right?
They won't
So,
signing. The signing part will be the overseas company.
Okay. So the overseas
Not the
company is
local
hiring the
company.
agent. Yeah,
Not
okay.
the local
All right.
company. We only
Okay.
wanted to protect the local company. We will directly work with the overseas company. All the signing and all these things will do with the overseas company. So you
Actually,
are
at the
only
end of the
sponsor the
day,
work permit.
at the end of the day, obligation to report and pay tax still reside with the person, right? The expatriate, it is his obligation. But the problem is the tax department has also passed the obligation to the employer, and that's where the conflict would be, right?
Yes, that's where the conflict will be. That's why very important at the first place when you hire expatriates, foreign workers, educate them and make a very clear, what we call this, make a very clear clause in the contract or whatever to make sure that they comply with the IRB's requirement. That's why PCB or MTD is very important. That's why some of the company, they will straight away deduct 30%, no residual rate. So if there is anything happen, they already pay tax at the higher tax rate.
Okay.
So it will
All
also
right.
in the sense of them. Yeah.
I have one here that says that this has got to do with ESOS.
Oh,
that
ESOS.
a Malaysian public listed company gives ESOS. I think it's a benefit, taxable benefit, right? But it is to its overseas subsidiary. So the staff don't even belong to the Malaysian company, but it's given to a subsidiary overseas. So how do you handle this?
Okay. This one, Sean, has to go back to the basics of taxations. The Malaysian basis of taxation is on the territorial basis of taxation, that the IRBM will only charge you tax if you derive a Malaysian source income or perform services in Malaysia. Right? So if let's say that you're performing services outside Malaysia and you derive a foreign source income, and to recognize your services outside Malaysia, that's why the subsidiary company or the local company here offer you with the ESOS. So it would be regarded as a foreign source income. So by right, it shouldn't be taxed on the hands of that employee for the purpose of the individual tax reporting. But this one must make sure that this is solely for the purpose of performing work outside Malaysia. That's why you offer them a ESOS and so on. So that's why it's very important also to analyze further whether there is any connection or incidental of employment between Malaysian employment or an overseas employment. But if let's say 100% employment is belong to the overseas company, just that the company in Malaysia is the one who will offer the share scheme to that employees, so by right, he shouldn't be taxed in Malaysia. He should be paid tax in that overseas company, overseas country. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think there's another one which is asked. I think Mona Lisa has already answered, and I think you also answered it earlier. It's about the
Okay.
CP22 lah. Whether those
Okay.
that not subject to tax, you still need to submit the CP22.
I see. Yeah. Okay. About the not subject to tax and still need to submit CP22. I think this is many of give confusions to the employers. Yeah, because they may not know whether this employee will be subject to tax or not. Because that's very
Yeah.
important to know the threshold. As we
Correct.
know that for if you are single, after you minus EPF, the amount threshold is like
Yep.
34,400.
Mm.
So if you know that this employee or the interns or the part-timers actually
Yeah.
below this threshold, no need for you actually to do the EA form or to do the CP22 and so on. But Form E, yes, you have to report in the Form E. That is
Okay.
where RIB make confusion to many of the
Yeah.
employers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that seems to be all the questions. I've got a few here myself. I have some personal experience by helping people. It is called about record keeping, right? Sometimes, like they say, a fire, all my documentation is burned. So the question that comes to it is that, yeah, it's like a force majeure lah. I'm not able to give you because it's not there.
Because
Okay?
of this, because of that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think this
Yeah,
could be
but so that's the first question. Then the second would be, in the Income Tax Act, is there provisions to say that there is a duty of care to protect such data and documents, therefore leads to a liability that if you did not keep your documents from fire, then it's also a liability. Is there such a thing,
Okay, so far they didn't mention specifically what kind of the documents that that could be, give a concession in a way that if let's say that the employee not be able to provide all this information due to certain accidents, all these things, they did not mention clearly in the act. They just say that if you are unable to provide the information with a valid reason, with a reasonable, on the basis of reasonable grounds, they may consider to give a concession. They just say that, but they didn't detail what type of any type or detailed type of accident or whatever that we couldn't provide it to the Irbm. So they didn't, because for Irbm, it's good. I agree with you, Sean. By right, they should come up with this, because at least it make it clear to the maybe the taxpayer. In fact, Sean, I think I read one of the netizens says that to simplify the process of keeping the records, why don't IRB come up with their apps? Means that whenever we spend, especially for those individual taxpayers if let's say they buy books, if let's say they buy computers and so on, they just use apps that link to the IRBs on the personal relief. It would be good rather than we keep the hard copy. All right. So I think that one is more on the individual. But for the employer, as we know, employer, we involve a group of employees. So by right, we should have a systematic in the terms of storage the information and so on, unless that you say it happens because of the fire and all these things. I think this is one of the valid reasons we can tell the IRBM, unless the IRBM has their own records or whatever records the IRBM, and to the best judgment of RBM, they can also consider this and come to the mutual agreement with the employers, the best judgment on what are those penalty they can consider to penalize of the offences. RB always have the because as far as concerned, I spoke to the many of the auditors, RBM auditors. They looks okay with me. They are not that strict, but they are more kind of understanding in the certain areas lah. Unless you must know where you come from, and then in fact I also have a story. One of my client actually because we are under self-assessment system, Sean. So one of this my employee client actually, she filed tax return with nil tax payable. So it's a suspicious for the IRBM, because why? In the past, this lady pay tax, but why suddenly this 2 years on the road never pay tax? The first year IRB okay, But the second year, IRB started suspicious whenever, pay tax and all this thing. And then IRB silently issued notice of additional assessment, which caused her to pay 50,000 tax payable based on the all records. Yeah. So she's not happy, and then after that, she appointed us. Then and then we also feel don't know how to help this lady, because this lady, she claimed that she didn't work. She actually got the money from the husband. But the making this one more challenge. The husband is already retired, and the RBM started asking where the money come from the husband, if the husband is already retired, and all these things. So they started asking a lot of informations and bank statement. But to a certain extent, we discussed with the RIB face to face, and tell the RIB, look at the common sense lah. Okay. When we're talking about the retiree, maybe this retiree already have their old savings, I told the officer, and probably this is the one that they could, spend for the wife and all these things. Maybe it's not appear in the bank statement, any bank statement, but we don't know. People must have some of the source, like how actually to manage that, because by looking at this husband last time, he one of the employee that eligible for a pension from the overseas. So the only document that the RBM request, if that is the case, just give me the latest pension statement. And we want this piece of pension statement actually managed to close the case.
Okay, good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's a
guess
common
so.
sense.
They will investigate the source.
They will investigate the fault, but at the end of the day, they still come to the common sense lah. They okay with that. So this is why you know how to tackle with the auditor, IRB auditor. They are not that strict, but you know how to speak to them. And sometimes you will tell them that this and this, and then they will they will manage to give you a very reasonable rates.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. One last one before we two last ones I have for the summary. Again, I've also seen, when several people get together and form a company to do business, and I've seen many that halfway through somewhere, argument, business no good, then there were no more money in the business, or losses. Then all the shareholders double, don't want to put money, and then I don't know, sometimes the company secretary who's left with everything. So the records, I don't know who's going to keep, who's taking it, because nobody wants care, nobody wants to talk, So in that scenario, if I'm one of those directors, I think the best thing to do is to talk to you, hire you to help. Because really, you can't find the record, because it was the previous accountant or whatever, he also not paid, he also lari already, I don't know.
As I mentioned, that IRB, sometimes they will look at old records lah. But of course, at the end of the day, we'll come to a mutual agreement as well lah. Whether this is reasonable or not from the point of the company itself and so on, to the best judgment. IRB always come back to the best judgment. But if let's say this, so at least we know how to tackle. The most important is just to make sure that we close the case to protect the company as well.
Right. So in summary, because we are almost to 2:00, there's a lot of liabilities moving on what you have said. Now, this is very onerous to a small and medium or a mid-tier company, right?
Yeah, mid-tier company.
Maybe if Crow can come up with, I don't know what you call it, like a checklist, a simple checklist about some of the key, not key, also it's quite common that people forget. So it's a question and answer, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. So if it is no, then contact Crow, for further details.
Actually, Sean, thank you about that, because I think next week or next 2 weeks we will launch one Google Map called as a payroll checklist. This payroll checklist actually will ask you series of question. You just to tick yes or no, taxable or not taxable, not taxable, and then from there we will know your scoring already. So if the scoring more to kepada medium risk or high risk or no risk, it will appear.
Yeah,
So from
okay,
there,
that's good.
so
Yes, that's
from
good.
there, for those who are like a high risk, we will more focus on high risk. We are more than happy to help them. But for those who
Okay.
have no risk, also we are more happy to help them because we wanted to know, are you sure you're at no risk?
Yeah.
This is where our payroll checklist will be launched, I think next week or next 2 weeks. Yeah, we call as
Yep.
we wanted to help the employers subsequent to this audit framework. Yeah, I hope it helps.
Just keep us in the loop so that
Yep.
then we as MICCI we will forward it and blast it out to all our members and let them go log on and do it for you guys. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
that's good. And thanks, Sean. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So we are coming to the end of it. Exactly. 1:59. We've got 1 minute to go. Thank you very much. I don't think there's any more outstanding. If there are any other further questions, I think Pro has left their messages, or you can get in touch with MICCI, then we can forward you those things. So once again, thank you everyone for attending this, and Puan Shalina, very good engagement again.
Okay.
Just stay tuned for the next Crow Expert Hour by the Malaysian International Chamber. Keep a lookout, and there'll be more interesting topics coming on board. All right, see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.